Hello, 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 and welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. Before we get started, let me remind you first that we are covered by the BIPCOT No Government License, which allows for the reuse and distribution of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That is BIPCOT.org. We're also protected under Brandenburg v. Ohio 1969, which ruled that the court or that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. So everything we here say is hypothetical.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It's all philosophy, baby.
Yep. That beautiful voice back on the block. Miss Dyreka joining us after a little bit of an absence.
Yeah, we all got sick and the holidays, and well, it's the other way around, really, but I'm back.
And there goes all our listeners.
So funny.
Hey, we had a pretty good turnout with our couple of Boogaloo ones, and
yeah.
Yes, we did. And to any new listeners, welcome.
That's right.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
To any old listeners, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why are you still here? We suck.
Yeah. What?
Most professional podcast ever.
Yeah.
Oh. You will not find a more professional podcast on the internet.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
literally the coronavirus of podcasting.
Yes. Yes.
That's our.
But don't blame us, because we're not even fucking getting paid, and we've been doing this for 2 years.
The coronavirus of podcasting. Welcome to Anarchy Among Friends. Everybody needs a little culture. Sometimes it's just grown in a petri dish.
God,
right.
I'm getting red flagged for that one. Oh.
Just get limes with it. It'll be.
Well, I wish we were. I wish we were as viral as coronavirus. That'd be cool. But,
spreading like
plague. Yeah, spread us like the plague, baby. Yeah, share our stuff. Spread us like the plague. So.
The plague killed people. Come on now.
I mean,
well, our humor.
What is it?
Could probably accomplish the same thing.
It's pretty killer.
Over 900 deaths from corona now.
Dude.
So it's officially this novel version of coronavirus is officially deadlier than SARS.
Yes, still not as deadly as the flu.
That's what I was gonna say. Still not as deadly as the regular flu.
Yeah, which killed over 10,000 people this winter.
Yeah, but it's starting to head towards.
I mean, we had it. We had the fucking flu, and we're still here. So.
What's the name of the Spanish flu? That killed however many millions of people and stuff.
It wasn't like in the U.S. alone. It was some huge number. Yeah.
But so its death rate, I forget what its death rate is, but based on infection rate versus death rate, the coronavirus, this novel form of it, is officially a deadlier, whatever they call that ratio of deadliness for viruses, is officially worse than the Spanish flu.
Yep. Still not as deadly as government.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Yep. The Spanish flu couldn't even dream of being as deadly as the government in the 20th century. It killed millions of people, and it's still not even close to how many government killed.
Yeah, the Spanish flu killed like 3 or 4 million people, I think, something like that. That's a look at World War I, which was going on at the time, which was all government killing people, and that killed millions. That killed hundreds of thousands in afternoons. So
yeah, let's see, the Spanish flu, 1918 and 1920, infected 500 million people around the world, or about 27% of the then world's population. Estimated death toll to have been 50 million, as possibly high as 100 million. About 3 to 6% of the Earth's population at the time.
Oof, that's worse than I thought it was. Okay, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I was thinking it was bad. That it was really
50.
Bad.
Jesus, 50 million.
Yep.
That is.
Yeah.
That
I
is
think your number was just in the U.S.
Yeah, I think that's
Andrew.
what I was thinking. Is just American deaths.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's still, you got World War I, World War II, Stalin's purges, the Holocaust, the genocide in Bosnia. You have the Armenian genocide that Turkey still refuses to acknowledge it did.
Mm-hmm.
You have however many other ethnic cleansings that government did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Democide is credited for killing roughly 262 million people.
Yep.
In the last century. So.
Yeah.
In the
1900s.
Pol Pot, the Great Experiment, or whatever grand experiment. So you got that. You have China.
Mao.
Actually, there's currently a movie on Netflix called First They Killed My Father. That's about the Khmer Rouge. Written by a survivor. Who was a child at the time. It's really, really good. If you haven't read the novel, read the novel, but otherwise watch the movie. It'll really drive home just exactly what government is capable of and what socialism is capable of.
And speaking of, don't we have an article about California seizing a privately owned apartment building to control rent?
You want to just jump into that?
Yeah, because that's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay. Speaking of socialism.
Yeah, speaking of socialism.
LA politicians want to seize private apartment building to prevent rent increases.
Yeah,
you heard that right. Okay,
that's some USSA shit.
Yeah, Los Angeles politicians will make housing affordable by force if necessary. On Friday, City Council member Gil Cedillo introduced a motion that asks city staff to draft plans for using eminent domain to seize the Hillside Villa Apartments, a 124-unit, privately owned, developed in the city's Chinatown neighborhood, to avoid rent increases at the property. The property is currently under an affordable covenant that requires its owners to rent out a number of its units at below market rates. The covenant is set to expire soon, meaning that some rents on 59 units will increase to market rates, which means rents will hike up to about $1,000 per unit. Quote, we think it is important enough that we need to take action to preserve those units. We don't want to generate more homeless people. They want to seize all 124 units. Because 59 units might get a price increase.
That guy.
They don't want to create homeless people, but they're about to create a bunch of them because they're going to mismanage the fuck out of it, and eventually it's going to be a crumbling heap that isn't even safe for human habitation.
Well, yeah, I mean, government on housing has worked out so well for California to this point.
For anyone. Yeah. It hasn't worked out well.
Yeah, quote, we think it's important enough that we need to take action to preserve these units. We don't want to generate more homeless people. Coronado Terrazas Cross, Cedillo's communication director, told Reason, saying that many tenants would not be able to afford the coming rent increases. Quote, I think it's a brilliant idea, but I need to know, are we in Cuba or Venezuela? Says Tim Botts, the LA area developer who owns the building, about the proposals to seize his property. Botts tells Reason he purchased the development company that built Hillside Villa roughly 20 years ago. The building's construction has been financed by a number of government grants and loans, including a $5.4 million loan from Los Angeles since abolished Communities for Developed Agency in 1986.
I appreciate the passive aggressiveness of that statement. Like, yeah, it's a great idea. Are we in Cuba or Venezuela?
And then the guy, like, why is rent so expensive? Oh, because, taxes are expensive. Why are taxes so expensive? Because the guy got a $5.4 million loan from the Los Angeles Community Redevelop Agency. Where's that money come from?
Yeah, but also you were describing the later part where it becomes a vicious cycle. Why is rent so high? Because taxes are so high. Why do taxes have to be so high? So we can buy housing to provide cheap housing.
Yeah, and
but
remember,
you're the ones making rents high. You just made rents even higher. Well, I guess we need more tax money to buy more apartment buildings.
Well, and remember, I mean, and this is the thing about taxes that everybody seems to forget, is at least everybody on the left, political left, seems to forget for sure, and really on the right. If you take 10% of the income of a person who makes $20,000 a year, that's $2,000. $2,000 to somebody who makes 20 grand. They're hurting from that.
Yeah.
But if you take 10% of somebody who makes $100 million a year,
right?
Well, you're taking 10 million. They still have $90 million to spend. That's not a big deal to them,
right?
So the people who are hardest hit, even when it's a percentage, which is supposed to be quote unquote fair, the people who are hardest hit are still the lower income people, who are the same people who are renting these properties who can't afford the rent increase.
Yeah. All taxes disproportionately affect the poorest among us. Every single one, because the cost of business is always passed forward to the consumer. So even if you are not taking money directly out of their pockets, you are inflating goods beyond their reach.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not gonna tax your income because you make so little. However, because I'm taxing all these people's income, now all of the goods that you need to survive have just gone up in price by double.
Yeah. So you can only afford half of your survival.
Yeah. And that's it. And it's that endless cycle. And then they go, oh God, well now I can't afford things. Okay, well let me go ahead and subsidize it and further raise.
But here, have an after school program.
Wait, okay, hold on. Okay. Quote, it's theoretically possible for the city to thread the needle to make this work constitutionally.
Of course. God.
Theoretically possible to thread the needle. In theory, you could get by the skin of your teeth.
Yeah, in theory, they could find some lawyer somewhere who could convince somebody of an interpretation that would make it constitutional.
Yeah. Extreme as it might be, the use of eminent domain could well be constitutional, says Jim Berling of the Pacific Legal Foundation, a public interest law firm. Quote, it's theoretically possible for the city to thread the needle to make this work constitutionally, Berling tells Reason, saying the government would probably be well within the right to condemn the property for the purpose of preserving affordable housing.
Wait, if it's condemned.
Yeah, but if it's condemned, they're not. Oh, no, I see where he's going here, because you condemn it. You say it's not okay for human habitation until the city certifies it. The city takes it because it's condemned property. And then they go, okay, well, now that we have it, it's not suitable for human habitation because the city runs it.
Right.
And now it becomes, that's what they're planning.
So they're lying. They're just admitting that they're going to fucking lie and say that it's not suitable for human habitation so that they can seize it from the rightful property owner.
Yep. When you control the definitions of the words, you can make the words mean anything you want.
Well, when you control the application of the law, you can make it into anything you fucking want it to be. It's the same concept. And this is why power is inherently wrong. Political coercive power is inherently wrong, because there is no such thing as a perfect human being on this planet that would use it perfectly right. There's just no fucking way.
I mean, I like to think of myself as a more altruistic individual than most people because I'm an anarchist. However, if you give me that kind of power,
I can't guarantee I would use it well.
I mean, like, I would use it probably mostly well, but there are going to come points where I can see benefit to myself personally or people that I'm friends with, and I'm going to abuse it. Even if not intentionally, I'm subconsciously going to use it, steer it that direction. That's what's going to happen.
Right. And even if I don't, I still don't know everything about all of the pieces of the market that I can affect. I have no way of predicting all the negative ripples that are going to happen to people from what I do. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not a fucking supercomputer. I can't calculate all of that. So I will, just like every other human being on this planet, be making mistakes through sheer fucking ignorance that fuck people's lives up.
The Cobra effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. But the devil is in the details, he says. Quote, if the city gets sloppy or they get greedy and don't want to pay what the property is actually worth, that would be eminent domain. Right, eminent domain. They give you a number and
they buy it. You just have to sell.
Well,
essentially,
you can fight it. No. You can fight it, but they have to give you like quote fair market value. But who gets to determine fair market value? Okay,
right.
Quote, if the city gets sloppy or they get greedy and don't want to pay what the property is actually worth, then there could be some serious constitutional challenges. Regardless of whether the seizure meets constitutional muster, it will certainly erode property rights, says Berling. Quote,
what's left of them?
Yeah, quote, why are you going to spend 30 years maintaining a property and keeping it in good shape if you know at the end of the day the government can basically rip up the agreement?
Yep.
Yeah.
Terrazas Cross, this is the...
Also, though, I do want to point out, rip up what agreement? The agreement that you're allowed to own the property as long as government says it's okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's... Again, you don't have property rights. You don't actually own property. You're leasing it at the pleasure of the government.
No, fee simple versus anecdotal titles, right? We have the title system that we have here in the United States doesn't actually give people full possession of their property. Where we basically, through property taxes and through zoning laws and whatnot, we rent property. We don't actually technically own it because of the legal system. So Terrazas Cross says the eminent domain could be deployed to seize other properties where affordable covenants are set to expire. Cedello's motion asked the city's Bureau of Engineering to consult with the city attorney and then prepare a report on seizing Hillside Villa within 30 days. Bott says he will fight any effort to seize the property in court. Ideally, tenants currently receiving subsidized rents at Hillside Villa would be able to find adequate market rate housing, even if the rents at the current residence shot up. That they couldn't is a product of Los Angeles not allowing enough construction of new housing at rates that would be to keep rents stable at times.
You think?
Oh, gee, you mean that the free market would be able to provide alternatives, but because the government has interfered, we don't have free market alternatives?
Yeah,
gosh.
So you mean now
that's literally the rest of the article and reason.
Right. So like now that their mismanagement has created this huge homelessness problem because people are priced out of the fucking market because they've created scarcity with their fucking mismanagement. Now they get to mismanage even bigger portions of it by seizing what's already there from the people who own it.
Yeah. Which is a weird complication because like I always harp on the fact that socialism just doesn't work even on paper because a central planning organization cannot predict scarcity. Not only can they not predict scarcity, they inadvertently create it artificially.
Yep, through mismanagement, always. That's why, like, did you guys watch the Chernobyl miniseries? I think we talked about that, right? You can, like, it's super accurate. You can see what some of their grocery like their supermarkets and stuff looked like. They'd have like 3 of something in the middle of the shelf because the resources were just so fucking mismanaged by bureaucrats instead of managed by the people who had a vested interest in the success of the grocery store. They had no variety, no selection. Everything was scarce and really difficult to find. People were going to fucking gulags for engaging in the black market to get the shit that their families needed. You know, it's horrible. And too many Americans have not studied what life was like in the USSR. And that's like the best, most recent, super documented, easy to fucking research historical example we have of a failed socialist state.
Well, and even though it's easily available, you'll see, I've literally seen, I'm sure you guys have videos of American college students actually argue with survivors of gulags, with refugees from the Soviet Union that, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. They lived through it and somehow they don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
Well, they are products of the public education system. So
do you think that we maybe have a better grasp on it because we were little kids, you know, like in the 80s, and there was a lot of talk about it. It was in the news a lot, and we had more exposure to like real time information. Because I remember hearing the news on and hearing shit about the living conditions over there, and, you know, people talking about it at church and things like that. I mean, I remember hearing a lot about it as a kid. And maybe these kids just don't really understand because they've never had like a threat like Russia.
They just went through a 12-year, 15,000 hour
indoctrination program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing too, because like I'm a millennial.
Right.
Fucking youngster.
By 5 years I'm a millennial. So by the time I can remember, the Soviet Union was just getting ready to collapse. Like I remember the fall of the Berlin Wall, but that's like one of the earliest memories I have was the fall of the Berlin Wall.
The wall that was put up to keep socialism in?
Yes, exactly, to keep people in. Like I remember that part. I don't remember anything further back, but I do remember that. And I mean, I guess that might play a part, like remembering the celebrations of people when the wall came down. And
like family members that had been separated for decades and like they're finally back together again, or
and I remember Christmas Day '91. I remember watching the TV when it was announced that the Soviet Union had officially like collapsed.
Done. I remember that.
Like I remember seeing that, and I do remember those things, but a lot of what socialism, you know, really was, I don't even remember. But I still grew up learning what socialism ultimately was going to mean, like if it became a big thing.
Right.
And hey, this is going to be a bad idea because we remember the Soviet Union. I think what's happening now is you have the Xenials, you know, the half generation younger than me, and then you have the what, do they even have a name? The Gen Z, the whatever you have them, who are largely raised by parents who are about my generation, who are about millennials, who just barely remember.
Yeah. And, well, Micah's Gen Z, my oldest. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have people who just barely, you know, who are being raised largely by people who just barely remember, or people who, you know, grew up in the Reagan era where there was a lot of disaffection because America had become such a clearly kind of fascist empire by that point. And so there was a lot of that. I think that's kind of playing into it. But I mean, really, all you got to do is pick up a history book and read it. And the problem is that our 12-year indoctrination program discourages that.
Okay. Picking up a history book or reading it doesn't really help anything because they wrote the history books.
Yeah, and they're editing them at a furious fucking rate.
Picking up a history textbook. I mean, like actual history books,
like Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States.
By the way, if you're interested in older textbooks printed in like the 80s and 90s with publishing dates in the 80s, even 90s, go to thebackpack.com. If you're a homeschooler and you want the older textbooks, like I teach my kids out of, the ones that haven't been like infected by victim culture and all that kind of shit. If you want those, thebackpack.com sells them for fucking cheap. I spend like $50 per kid on school books every year.
Oh yeah, and I always encourage people, like your local libraries will have book sales a lot of times on old books that nobody's reading anymore. Go to those. I used to go to those. I grew up getting hauled to those, and I still go to those every chance I get because you'll find older books that are just gems. that you can get your hands on. The date from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s.
We got a bunch of them when our library here in town was redone. They were remodeling the whole building. So they got rid of like a whole bunch of old books. They had this little like house on the property, like a little like 2-bedroom house. And it was fucking packed almost to the ceiling in every room full of books. And they were free. I just like backed up my car and was like throwing boxes of books in the back of my SUV.
The one here, the library here in town, they sell them, but it's like you pay $5 for a bag, and everything you can fit in that bag. And it's like a paper, like grocery bag. Everything you can fit in that, you get for that $5. It's a really good way to get your hands on huge amounts of knowledge that predates the revisionist history, that predates a lot of this new socialist revisionist movement.
And it's the old ways of doing math. It's the higher standards for language arts. You know, the stuff that we grew up with as kids, like the more stringent kind of, you know, English grammar and math that actually fucking makes sense. Not this common core bullshit.
Yeah, it's doing math in a way that makes sense. It's history that, there's a lot of history that you should teach that's more modern, where, you know, we've discovered things since then. We've learned things since then. There are pieces that, you know, fell into place since then that we now know that are still valid and still worthy of study. But a lot of, you know, starting them out with that and using that as a grounding can make a huge difference.
And that's what we're doing. And I tell them the stuff in your science book, the stuff in your history book, and your like geography and social studies, these things, some of them aren't accurate anymore. But what you're getting is you're getting a historical knowledge of the topic. When you get older, we'll get the more recent stuff. And by then you can kind of understand how this topic has evolved and know where it came from and where people have taken it. Make your own judgments about, you know, where it's ended up.
Yeah, so, being somebody with a military history degree, like, it drives me nuts that so many people now reject the older historical accounts of things, like things that are written. There are, especially my specialties in college, they're World War II and the Civil War, the American Civil War. And there are so many great books written in the 50s and 60s, particularly about those two topics, because
by people who were there.
Yeah, the historians who were able to write them could interview people who were alive at the time, who could give them firsthand accounts. And a lot of that stuff then becomes source material.
And for World War II,
for the new ones.
Historians probably witnessed most of it for themselves.
Oh yeah, and I mean, take that with a grain of salt, because there's some World War II historians, like there are a few German World War II historians. Oh, good Lord. But Madman Hitler and Rommel could do no wrong, and just they're wrong. But there's a lot of solid evidence there, a lot of solid information that I think people need to really learn how to go back and find again, so that you can understand things from a more objective perspective.
Right. You need a more holistic view of the topic.
Yeah, and especially with the internet, with the invention of Wikipedia, everybody goes to Wikipedia and goes, okay, that's the be all end all on the topic, and they never look any further. And it's like,
they never even click on the links at the bottom of the fucking article, the source links.
Could it be that they lack critical thinking skills?
It could be, which brings up an interesting idea.
Never been taught.
Linked in our comments, or linked in our
there is a link
description
in the description for a workbook that you as a parent can use to help teach your children. Look at that, Andrew's got a copy of it right there on the screen.
Look at this.
For yourself.
This is an interesting book.
A critical thinking workbook for beginners. And the minimum age recommendation is somewhere around 9 years old. Okay. So, you know, people are using it with kids as young as that and really enjoying it.
Which means about half of you voters will be able to understand it.
Right. And I know of people who are reading it to even younger children and using it as a way to start conversations with them.
Yeah, and it's my daughter's 11. I'm gonna start working with her on it. She's probably gonna be up here this summer, so I'm gonna be working with her on it. And Lindsay's her introduction to critical thinking. I mean, she went through all of high school and, she was an archaeology major in college, and her introduction to serious critical thinking was that book.
Really?
And us working.
She never had it before that.
She never had, all the way through, in archaeology, and she'd never had any kind of exposure.
And that workbook is just like the bare bones basics of Aristotelian logical, argumentation. It's really super basic. It's like 22 pages of information and then like a guided journal for the rest of the book.
Yeah.
So...
And you want to talk about something that's demonstrative of the difference between private education and public education, and why I laugh at so many people who hate on private Christian schools. I went to a private Christian school my junior and the first half of my senior years. And guess what class I got to take in that school? Logic 101.
Yeah.
Guess what class I got asked, well, I don't know, is that a science class or what is that? When I transferred back to public school the second half of my senior year.
What?
Logic 101. They had no idea what that even meant in a public school.
People think that logic is this nebulous term that just means you said something that made sense. No, logic is an actual fucking discipline. It's an actual philosophical discipline that you can train yourself to take part in.
There's a line in one of my absolute favorite movies is called A Ranger Cooking a Hole in the Sky. And there's this kid's name is Red, and Jerry O'Connell plays the other character, and Red's talking, and Jerry O'Connell goes, he says, have you ever, for once in your life, considered all the available information, dug through all of it up on your own, and came to your own individual logical conclusion or something? And the kid goes, why would I go through all that trouble?
Yeah.
Yep. And that sums up the current generation. I mean, that sums up the
why
world.
Would you? Right my now. Question is, why would you let someone else do your thinking for you?
I don't know.
I mean, the idea that fucking gives me anxiety that I'm going to make a fool of myself because I listened to a fool.
Yep. But that's on the Segway meter, that's like a 3 out of 10.
But hey, before we segue, buy my book.
Buy Dyreka's book. It's linked in the description.
Yeah.
It's worth the money, kids.
Or just go on Amazon and Google her name. It'll come up.
Yeah, if you put my name into Amazon, you will find my book.
Yeah, if you can remember how to spell her name.
Yep.
Yeah. Dyreka Klaus. Good luck.
Claus.
Right. Man accused of driving through Republican voter registration tent arrested.
And they should have put spikes around the tent just like people do with the Trump signs.
They should have built a wall.
Yeah.
All right. Apparently. Yeah. Hours after a van plowed through a Republican Party tent where volunteers were registering voters, Jacksonville police arrested a 27-year-old man on 2 counts of aggravated assault on a person over 65 years old, criminal mischief, and driving without a license.
So he did it on purpose. It wasn't like a...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. He didn't lose control. He aimed for this specific.
Yeah.
Right.
Jacksonville Sheriff's Office identified Gregory William Lowell Tim as the person behind the wheel of the van that struck the tent set up in the parking lot of a Walmart supercenter. Tim is accused of pulling up, driving through the tent, and striking the tables. Quote, "It happened so quickly," said Nina Williams, a volunteer. "I just barely got out of the way." Lieutenant Larry Gales said that after driving through the tent, the driver, now identified as Tim, stopped, took a video, and flipped off the people that were inside the tent before driving away.
Oh, my God.
So, thankfully, nobody was injured. Number one, nobody was hurt. So... But yes,
there's a guy whose parents never bought him Think for Yourself, a critical thinking workbook for beginners by Dyreka Klaus.
So they're tearing into the guy's social media.
That's the segue. I'm just tying it back into the segue point.
He's originally from Arizona and was studying for something. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But that's who he is besides the point.
God.
The point here is the polarization of politics and the lack of critical thinking skills and lack of actual education.
Yep.
That ties back into what you guys were just talking about, so we don't have to go over all that again, but
yeah, indoctrination and education are two entirely different things.
Schooling and education are entirely different things.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I know I saw the numbers once upon a time. The kind of actual the energy generated by a car hitting you at 35 miles per hour.
Jeez.
It's
it is definitely fatal at impact, or has the capacity to be fatal. Humans are remarkably resilient, so
yeah.
But
bounce.
Yeah,
the younger you are, the easier it is to bounce.
Yeah, but I mean, we're bendy and we're flexy, and it is really impressive the things that.
Well, maybe you're bendy. Andrew.
You're bendy.
I'm not sure I want to think about that too hard.
I am not bendy. I am not bendy at all.
At my age, you don't bend, you crackle.
Yeah,
me too.
I'd snap like a twig at this point if I try to go too far. But I mean, you consider what he did, and he wasn't charged either with assault with a deadly weapon.
No.
But
that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, that is exactly what that is. You're talking about something that weighs probably, 3,500 pounds, 4,500 pounds, traveling at 25 to 30 miles an hour at impact. If he had made contact with anyone, he would have killed them.
Yeah.
Aggravated assault on a person over 65. Or two counts of aggravated assault on a person over 65.
So there are two old people there.
Yeah. Criminal mischief and driving without a license.
What he did was every bit as deadly as shooting a gun at somebody.
Yep. Or Charlottesville, when that dude drove into a crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we don't have car control. Not like they want to do gun control. They don't have car confiscation and car red flag, car
red
laws.
Flag car laws. You're unstable. I'm afraid you're gonna have to give me your keys.
But the thing that kills me about people that want gun control is they act like they don't give a fuck about the statistics and the actual rate of these problems. Nope. It's like they're so emotionally involved in this idea that if you get shot with a gun, you're somehow more dead than if you get fucking hit by a car.
That's what we need. We need coronavirus-free zones. That'll stop it.
Yeah. But newsflash, dead is dead. It doesn't matter if it's a fucking car or a gun or you took too many pills or you dropped your fucking charging iPhone in the bathtub while you were in there.
Well,
dead is dead. And guns aren't any scarier than any other fucking way to die.
Well, that's the thing about guns as opposed to automobiles is firearms is a very polarized item. It's a very polarized object. The discussion is very polarizing because there's two extremes when it comes to firearms, right? Which is our view, right? Which is unabated, get whatever you want, blah, 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 blah. And then there's nobody should have it. And then there's a whole bunch of moderates in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Well, some people should have them for hunting and self-protection and blah, blah, blah.
I was talking to one of those, they're okay for hunting people at a party last weekend. Nobody needs an AR-15 for hunting. And I was like, lady, it's the exact same fucking rifle as a hunting rifle. My God.
Are you kidding? I literally use my AR. My 300 Blackout AR is my deer gun. I use it to hunt.
You guys, I love it when they say this. She said, nobody needs a semi-automatic. And I was like, do you fucking know what semi-automatic is? She's like, well, nobody needs the ones that can kill a bunch of people really fast. I was like, oh my God.
So an cannon
automatic
from 1860 loaded with grape shot?
Yeah, seriously. People think semi-automatic means what automatic actually fucking means. These people don't even know what the hell they're talking about.
And I mean,
and
part
they
of
think they're qualified to talk about it. to direct public policy on it.
Oh yeah, and I love to bring that up to people. I'm like, okay, so have you ever seen cowboy action shooting? Have you ever seen how fast you can fire a lever gun?
Fuck.
Yeah.
Because that's faster. The people who are regulars in cowboy action shooting can fire their lever action Henry, which was designed in before the Civil fucking War.
Yep.
And in mass production before the Civil War.
Yeah.
Pump action shotgun. Just
slam fire.
Slam fire.
Pick up an 1897 Remington shotgun, the trench sweeper.
The trench sweeper, slam fire.
You can slam fire that thing real quick. But I mean,
but to me, that's not the point. The point was that she didn't know what the fuck she was talking about.
Right,
Even with the terms, the words that were coming out of her own mouth, she didn't even fucking know what they really meant.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why, like, I have some anti-gun relatives. I'm sorry, apparently mental illness runs in my family.
We already knew that, Andrew.
You're Irish. we knew this.
Yeah, but I have members of my family who are relatively anti-gun, and they have given up trying to argue it with me, because as soon as I'm like, okay, so when you say semi-automatic, do you mean a gas-operated semi-automatic, recoil-operated semi-automatic? Are we talking about a delayed recoil semi-automatic? Are we talking about direct blowback? What are we discussing?
Or
here?
are you in fact talking about an automatic and you're using the wrong fucking term?
Or are you talking about automatic, which means that it's and then I had somebody, because I brought up home-built guns, and I had somebody say, "Oh, well, they're just too complicated for the average person to make." Have you ever seen a straight blowback 9mm open bolt submachine gun? Do you know how many parts move in that weapon? Three freaking parts move in that weapon, and that is it. It is the simplest weapon to build on the planet fucking Earth. Don't give me that bullshit.
Well, back to my point about polarization is like, this person did this. This person was politically motivated to run over GOP
strangers.
Supporters. To run over GOP. No, they weren't strangers. They were GOP. Let's
right. Well,
in his mind, they were the enemy.
But people he never met is what I mean, because he assumed their views based on the political party they were signing up to vote with.
Yes.
He thought he knew them well enough to fucking try to mow them down.
Yes.
Well, see, and I'm gonna be the dissenting opinion here, because people who you honestly believe politically are destroying your way of life and are tyrannical and are attempting. If you honestly believe that that's what they're doing, they're being tyrannical and they're attempting to destroy your way of life and they're attempting to subjugate you. Killing them doesn't seem terrible.
Yeah.
That's my dissenting opinion. I'm pointing out here.
I'm not going to argue against that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So but, if that's what you believe, then yes.
But if you're
I understand.
If you're a 27-year-old kid,
well,
in a van trying to run over 65-year-old women registering voters.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why all they were doing is registering voters.
Yeah, this comes back to that whole critical thinking thing. Yeah. It's not something I can't do. You know what I mean? Critical thinking, I don't turn it off. So I
agree.
I can't understand somebody who finds it justified just because they know somebody else's political position. I don't care if you think their political position is oppressive. I have to see like direct action against me before I'm going to treat somebody that way.
That's the difference. You're not politically radicalized.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, and that's the
because
thing.
Because the antidote or the inoculation, if you will, against polarization is critical
thinking. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, but that at the same time too, that's the dangers at what's happened in the United States, especially recently, is that you are seeing a forced polarization, which is a false polarization because they're actually both on the side here. You're seeing a forced polarization to the point of militarization.
Divide and conquer.
Of political movements where neither one has actual principles.
Yep.
And they are malleable based on the cult of personalities.
Yes.
So whatever big personality someone's saying, people are now getting to this point where they're willing to literally kill someone.
Just for having the wrong ideas.
For having a differing opinion.
Right. In their mind, the wrong ideas. Yep.
And that's the point. That's where it becomes dangerous. Because I fully support the idea that if you truly believe that someone is truly a threat to your life, liberty, and happiness, like you truly believe, and the happiness one, that has to come in conjunction with the other two. If someone's just making you unhappy, don't go out and fucking kill them. That's what psychopaths do, assholes. Don't sit there and tell me that that's what I advocated. Yeah. So, but
we're talking pursuit of happiness.
Yeah. If you're
your own quest for it, you have a right to your own quest for happiness. Yeah.
Right. If you truly believe that somebody is interfering with that, I completely understand why you would feel the need to enact violent action against them. However,
I understand the sentiment.
Right. I get that. However, this is a person who, in their mind, just has a differing political view and wants to voice their opinion. Like, this isn't I'm going to take action against you kind of person. This is I'm going to ask other people if maybe I can have this person who I want in charge. People.
Yeah.
And you're threatening to kill them.
Yeah.
With your vehicle.
Not just threatening, trying to, taking action. See, that's where the difference is. Like, I get up in my feelings. There's people that I think legitimately are fucking oppressing me and everybody else around them. You know, obviously I feel that way about voters. We all know I feel that way about voters. But the difference is I'm not going to take action because I know how to think critically about these things. If I take action, those people think they're right too. They think they have the right opinions. They think I'm wrong. Right? As long as it's all just thinking and talking, nobody has done anything that warrants fucking physical force.
And they weren't even voting themselves. They were just registering people, assisting people with registering to vote. They're literally filling out paperwork, and that's it. That's all these little old ladies are doing. You rammed your vehicle at a bunch of little old ladies because they were filling out paperwork, you fucking psychopath. Like,
Yes.
Yep.
And that's
the product of your university system, America. Congratulations.
And I used to laugh. I laughed for a little bit about the Trump derangement syndrome thing, but it fucking exists, and this is a demonstration of it.
And it's not really funny anymore.
Trump derangement.
It's just pathetic.
Trump derangement is a symptom of this. Is what it really comes to. It's not the reason or the cause. It is a system of the root issue,
right?
And that is the government has got to the point where people are killing each other over a difference of opinion of who should run this country,
of who should tell them what to do.
The thing is, this should tell us something. Here's an important point. This should fucking tell us something. People are so afraid of the wrong person being in power that they're willing to kill over it.
Yes.
Does that not maybe tell people that the problem might be how much power these people have to begin with?
Absolutely. If you're worried about the wrong people being in office, the office shouldn't fucking exist.
Thank you.
See, and that's an issue that has been, speaking of my having focused on the American Civil War, that's an issue that has existed at least since the 1860s in a very real way.
No. This is an issue that's existed the entirety of human history. The fucking War of the Roses tore England apart in the 1500s because
of this. It did. But what I'm saying is, in the United States, where this became this polarized, this violent,
remember the 5th of November,
concern,
right? Yep. I mean, the original Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah.
Well, see, and he wanted to instill a Roman Catholic monarchy, and we're not going to get into that right now. And why idolizing Guy Fawkes?
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, Guy Fawkes. Yeah, that's a fucking.
We're not going to get into that, but the important point though is that like in the United States, where that's really been incredibly obvious, has been for 150 years, and the United States has only existed an extra 89 years beyond that.
Before that, well,
something like that, yeah.
It was it was about 100 years before that, or no, 90, 90 to 100 somewhere.
Because remember, Gettysburg Address, 407 years ago. It's 87.
Right. So. Yeah. Okay.
That's so you're not looking at a huge amount of time for the United States to get politically to this point where people are literally willing to kill each other actively over disagreements.
Yeah.
Politically.
Right.
And it wasn't even a disagreement because he didn't talk to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't any interaction. He just
disagreed with the political party that they were identified with.
Well, and the funny thing is
it's
that
like it was literally what they could have represented. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's what they could have represented that he took issue with.
Right. Or what he assumed they represented.
Yeah.
Well, and Lincoln, Lincoln didn't even entirely disagree with the South because he was still a racist. I realize I'm going to catch flack for that, and you can all go fuck yourselves. I've studied him more than you have, and he was a racist prick.
And he wasn't anti-slavery.
The North still had slaves. The North still had slaves until the end of the Civil War, till the 14th Amendment was passed.
Yeah, look at Maryland that stayed part of the Union. Look at Kentucky that stayed part of the Union. So, these are states that had slavery and were allowed to keep their slaves even after the Emancipation Proclamation because it only applied to states in a state of quote unquote rebellion.
Which arguably he didn't have any authority over because they had already seceded.
And the idea behind that was to deny those states extra troops that slavery would give them.
Yeah, and it came from it. Oh, I could go on for days about that. But so
he's not what your fucking school history books say he was.
Yeah, he's not. But again, my point is that political speech has actually been militarized for quite some time in the United States. And it really reached a head in April of 1861. It's never really totally gone away. It's now coming back to the same levels that it was then. We're seeing it again. And it's still just arguing over who do I want to tell me to run my life, this guy or that guy. And if you are willing to kill someone... Which
pile of shit would I rather be standing in?
Right. If you're willing to kill someone over shit sandwich or giant douche.
Douche. South Park.
At that point, you need to question your life fucking choices.
Yes, you do.
Jesus, you're nuts.
And there's a book that can help you do that, coincidentally.
When did we decide this episode was going to be an ad for Derek's book? What?
Yeah, there's shit.
That should be the title of this article, is just the URL to Dyreka's book.
Yeah.
That's the title.
Yeah.
Or just buy Dyreka's book.
All
right, let's get on to something even more infuriating.
Yeah, while they're dividing us and pitting us against each other, they're screwing all of us over. And here's the fucking here's the segue. Are we talking about the?
That's a 0 out of 10 on the segue.
I know.
All right, this is actually.
I was really reaching, but
this is actually an update on a previous topic that we discussed.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the Chevron article. Sorry.
Oh, well, after this. We'll get to
okay.
that article.
All right.
Okay, so
that was a good segue for the Chevron article. God damn it!
You wasted it. Wasted it.
Put it back in your pocket.
Okay.
God damn it.
Okay. Previous article. Tilly Buchanan. Like her and her husband and the family, or her and her husband had been in the hot tub or whatever, and she came and they came inside and they were changing, and she was topless, and the kids came down the stairs. The step kids came down the stairs, and they saw her topless. Right? No issue there. No issue there with the kids or with the dad. But the kids told the mom. The mom was bitter, filed charges, for the kids seeing the stepmom topless, and it was a big.
Are you suggesting
and
that
unfortunately for this chick, they live. Unfortunately for this chick, they live in the biggest theocracy state
Utah,
in the fucking U.S. in
Salt
Utah.
Lake City. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So she was charged with, lewdness, like lewdness in the presence of children or something like that. So.
Right.
And then she fought it. So, okay, this is a judge refused to overturn part of Utah's lewdness law Tuesday, and a blow to a woman who's fighting criminal charges after her stepchildren saw her topless in her own home. Judge Carapettit sided with prosecutors who argued that lewdness is commonly understood to include women's breasts in American society.
No, it's not.
It isn't.
Hold on. Judges should not second guess what lawmakers have decided is lewd conduct, she wrote.
Isn't that literally the judge's fucking job?
Yeah, that's literally their purpose according to checks and balances and federalism. That is literally their purpose.
Their point. Yes.
That's like that meme that I wrote today. Oh, me in 7th grade. The American system was built on its checks and balances. Then it's got that. Well, that was a fucking lie, guys.
So that was a fucking lie.
So that was a fucking lie.
Okay. It wasn't immediately clear whether Tilly Buchanan would appeal the ruling. If she does not, her misdemeanor charge would move forward towards trial. If convicted, she could face jail time and be forced to register as a sex offender for 10 years.
God. That's not okay.
Years. Yeah, 10 years as a registered sex offender because she was topless in her own fucking home
while she was changing after getting out of the hot tub.
Yeah, while she was changing.
Yes. Buchanan and the American Civil Liberties Union of Utah had pointed to a court ruling that overturned a topless ban in Colorado and helped fuel a movement. They said Utah's law on lewdness involving a child is unfair because it treats men and women differently for bearing their chests. A global movement advocating for the rights of women to go topless, called the Free the Nipple campaign, has seen mixed results fighting similar ordinances in other parts of the country. So blah 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 blah. But yeah. So yeah, the judge agreed with the law, and this fucking line, right? Judges should not second guess what lawmakers have decided is lewd conduct. That's it. That's a quote from the judge.
Nice. So that was a fucking lie.
I agree that under. Now, I don't think any government should exist, but I agree that under the proper reading of the Constitution, judges should not attempt to legislate from the bench and it suddenly create laws ex nihilo.
Right.
That means out of nothing for those of us who haven't learned Latin. I agree that they shouldn't do that, but that isn't the request here.
Right. The request here is to just not apply a law to a situation that it clearly was not meant to cover.
Okay, I was wrong. It wasn't in the pool. They were the couple had stripped down after installing insulation in the garage.
Oh, so they had like fiberglass fibers in their clothes and shit.
Yeah,
you gotta get that shit off of your skin.
Yeah, and he wasn't. Yeah, he was not charged. They were both in this similar state of undress. He was not charged with anything.
So to put this in perspective, imagine for a moment that you are a woman and you are working with your husband on a vehicle. You get sprayed with gasoline. It ignites. You pull your shirt and bra off because they're on fire. Your child walks in because they are hearing you scream. Under this current interpretation of this law, you are now guilty of lewdness in front of children. You were supposed to just burn to death.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you get 10 years in prison.
10 years as a registered sex offender.
Oh, yeah. 10 years. Yeah. There was some prison time, but the 10 years was registered sex offender.
Okay. City prosecutor Ryan Robertson applauded the judge's ruling in a statement. Quote, "We are pleased that Judge Kara Pettit agreed with our arguments about the constitutionality of Utah's lewdness in the presence of children statute. We support the court's findings in this case that the government has an important interest in enacting laws that protect the health, safety, welfare, and morality of children and to prevent them from being exposed to lewdness."
I missed the point where this is currently the 19th century. The morality of children.
Yes.
Are you fucking kidding me?
How did you miss the part where this is the 19th century? We said Utah.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And Mormons.
Yeah.
Yes.
The magic underwear people.
Yes.
Yes. No. God is a space alien who was given his own planet, magic underwear and shit.
So everybody who lives in Utah who's not a Mormon gets to live under the Church of Mormon.
Yeah, and it's not like the children were there and she stripped. No, like they were taking their clothes off and the kids came down the stairs into the garage.
Right.
And saw them because they had pulled their clothes off because they were covered in something that can cause serious skin issues and needs to be removed.
Right.
And it
kind of leaves you speechless, doesn't it?
It does. I don't have a good, solid, witty response here because it's that level of absurdity.
No, I just want to flip my desk over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? 10 years as a registered sex offender because you went, oh God, this is really itchy and causing skin irritation, and pulled your shirt off.
It's not even
and then
because
children
of that,
walk down the stairs.
It's not even because of that, because her husband did the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. It's because she has some normal protrusions on the front of her body that are part of her naturally.
Oh God, you have mammary glands, so clearly you're not
Men
allowed.
have them too. They're just not as developed.
Men have protrusions also, Dyreka.
Well, men have mammary glands, believe it or not, is what I'm saying. Women's just happen to be more developed.
Usually.
Thank God for that. Usually. No, I mean, the other thing, though, that drives me nuts about this is that they, flat out reject the fact that so many states are starting to go, oh, shit, this whole, women can't be topless law is sexist, and therefore...
Yeah, and discriminatory.
It's discriminatory, and we shouldn't... And
we're treating half the population differently than the other half under the law.
Well, statistically, more than half, actually.
Yeah.
But the other thing that is ridiculous is if she had been whipping a boob out to feed a baby, magically, this isn't lewdness anymore.
Right.
Well,
which we're not saying that breastfeeding is lewd either. Breastfeeding absolutely
no, it's not lewd.
Any kind of
the
lewd.
Baby's hungry and you're using your boob for what the boob was intended. Okay.
Right.
Great.
That's the natural function of that fucking body part. That's exactly what it's supposed to do.
That's what it's supposed to do.
And the baby needs to fucking eat or the baby dies.
Right. But why is it not sexual in that instance, but magically somehow becomes sexual? And by calling it lewdness, that's what they're calling it. They're calling it a sexualization.
Yes.
So they're saying that her boobs are sexual magically.
No, her lewdness is defined as crude and offensive in a sexual way.
Exactly.
Yeah, sexual though.
So they're sexualizing her breasts in this context. But if there had been a baby present that was breastfeeding, it magically would not have been a sexual thing for the kids to walk downstairs and see, or even be standing in the same room
Yeah, so either breasts are sexual or they are not. This is like Schrodinger's titties.
That should be the name of the episode right there.
Schrodinger's
titties.
There we go. We got our title.
I'm writing that down.
Schrodinger's titties. You guys missed me. Admit it.
We don't get to have those kinds of comments without you here. It's
I have that down in my notes now.
All right.
Schrodinger's titty.
But so the concept is, depending on the perception of the one who is looking at the titties, determines whether they are sexual or not, which is bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things are what they are, and it doesn't matter how somebody else views them.
It's using the law to enforce subjective moral values.
Yes.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you that those children didn't find it sexual. They're just, and when they remarked to whoever, to their mother, they were just like, "Oh, haha, we came downstairs," they were
like the article said that the kids were initially embarrassed. Like, okay, you're embarrassed. Okay, that's it. You're embarrassed.
I bet she was embarrassed too.
Yeah.
I bet she turned around as soon as the kids turned her back to them, and
she wasn't saying here, touch them or something.
Yeah, she wasn't like, "Hey, do you like my titties?" Like, this isn't a Pornhub video, all right?
Right.
Just because she's their stepmom.
There's no pizza delivery.
Yeah.
Well, just because she's their stepmom does not mean that is the direction this progresses.
Yes.
Right? She's just trying to get stuff off.
Yeah, those Mormon dudes watch too much fucking Pornhub.
I think Utah is in the top 5% or something.
That would not fucking surprise me in the least.
Hours viewed of Pornhub. Yeah, because it's when you're a Mormon, you're horrendously sexually repressed.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Just for cringeworthy segue. Undercover cops hired 118 handymen, then arrested them for not having licenses.
Fucking pirates.
This article pisses me off
it makes me so mad.
All right.
Much.
The residents of Hillsborough County, Florida can sleep safely tonight following the arrest of 118 people for performing unlicensed contracting work as part of Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office sting known as Operation House Hunters.
They're literally, so first of all, they're mocking them, and they're literally going after, literally, this is not an exaggeration, they're literally targeting average working men.
Yep.
Because they haven't purchased the government's permission to perform.
Yeah, not only average working men, but probably the poorer ones because they couldn't afford to get the license.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, or it's a side hustle trying to support their family because they don't make enough at their regular job.
Yeah. Guys are just trying to make money doing hard work that you're not willing to do.
Yeah, that their customers are willing to hire them to do.
Hold the rage until the end of the next paragraph, and then you can explode. The sting saw sheriff's deputies pose as homeowners seeking handymen on social media to do jobs that required licenses. The unsuspecting handyman would be lured to one of 5 homes where undercover deputies filmed them performing or agreeing to perform prohibited tasks like painting or installing recessed lighting.
Because those two things are so fucking dangerous.
Because they took a bunch of liquid with pigment in it, put it in a brush, and wiped it across a hard surface. They need a fucking license?
They need the government's permission to paint.
But here, it's Schrodinger's fucking activity this time, because if those were wall-sized canvases, they wouldn't need the government's permission to paint.
Right, because now it's covered under the First fucking Amendment.
Right.
Yes. The stings were carried out between March and December of last year. The arrests were announced Wednesday. Quote, these 118 con men and women were posing as contractors and preying on innocent homeowners.
The con men were the fucking cops.
Hold on.
Oh my God.
Hold on, and praying.
Andrew's going to have an aneurysm.
Oh.
Quote. Okay, this is a quote from the county sheriff. Quote, these 118 conmen and women were posing as contractors and preying on innocent homeowners in Hillsborough County who were just looking to repair or improve their home. Oh my God, Andrew is shaking.
I'm so fucking pissed. Like, it's just...
Hold on. Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Croinster in a Tuesday press conference. The mugshots of those picked up in the sweeps were displayed behind him on big posters during the press conference. There they are on display. So proud they are.
Those people are hurting literally nobody. They're literally helping.
It gets worse. The county sheriff's office also released a compilation video of some of the handymen caught up in the sting operation.
Oh. I'm sorry. Do they have a broadcasting license?
Hold on.
Somebody needs to find out.
Only 8 of the people arrested as part of Operation House Hunters were repeat offenders. The other 110 were arrested for first-time offenses. The bulk of those charges were, quote, unlawful acts in the capacity of a contractor, a misdemeanor offense that could come up with $1,000 fine and a 12-month jail sentence. Repeat violations can result in a felony charge.
Oh my God, because you didn't give the government their fucking cut.
So to recap here, you engaged in agent provocateur behavior to entrap people to do manual labor, which you were unwilling, according to you, to do yourselves, which is largely regarded as basic unskilled labor.
Or minimally skilled labor.
You then paraded their faces around, mocked them, publicly ridiculed them, and are going to charge them with something for which they can spend a year in prison, in a fucking cage for.
Yes.
Because they were willing to show up and do work for you, manual labor, to earn a few bucks. And you are now going to fucking pretend that they were the con men because they didn't
they were preying on homeowners.
Now this is the same
because they didn't pay you their fucking protection money.
Now this is the same concept as the difference between prostitution and pornography. It would be totally legal if that guy went to that person's house and did those repairs and just didn't get paid for it.
Right.
Literally the only difference is that the person is paying him to do it.
Right. If he had shown up and done it as a friend, and then a few days later the guy was like, "Hey, let me buy you a 30-pack of beer."
Yep.
That I appreciate it.
Hold on. Just there's a couple of paragraphs here, and then it'll explode again. The sheriff's sting operation netted few criminal masterminds is not surprising. The netted few master criminals is not surprising to Leslie Samus, a criminal defense lawyer in Tampa, Florida, who has represented clients caught up in these kind of sting operations. Quote: the real con men that are trying to trick homeowners as usual are usually too experienced to get caught up in these type of sting operations. So the stings tend to catch someone that crosses the line in an unsophisticated way. Frequently, she says, officers will hire a handyman on the pretext of performing work that doesn't need a license, and then during the course of the job, ask them to do something that does, like unhooking a toilet or laying some tiles. Quote, when the handyman says no, then the undercover detective moves the conversation to something else and then comes back to the question later in a different way. By that time, the handyman gets to the location. They want to make the homeowner happy and end up agreeing to perform the work that they didn't intend on doing when they arrived. The undercover detectives are just creating a crime that probably wouldn't have occurred otherwise.
Which is agent provocateur and fucking illegal.
Yeah, that's entrapment.
Oh, it's absolutely entrapment.
Yep.
You're intentionally creating a situation for someone to break a law without them realizing that they're breaking the law. You are entrapping
You are literally
them.
pressuring them to break the law.
The con men, the people preying on other people, are the fucking cops. And as far as I'm concerned, they're the ones who deserve to be paraded around. They're the ones who deserve to be exposed. And they're the ones who deserve a lot of things that under Brandenburg, I'm not given protection to say.
Yeah. Quote, the sting operations rake in big money and fines and court costs, Simon says. Quote, catching real criminals actually committing a crime is much harder.
Fuck these motherfuckers. Fuck that fucking police force. I hope every one of them winds up with some form of necrotizing fasciitis and gets eaten from the inside out. Hopefully butthole.
I was going to say gonorrhea, but I like yours
fucking
better.
Pieces of shit.
Yeah.
You fucking subhuman scum. You are preying on a bunch of fucking people who are just trying to earn a fucking living.
Yep.
And you are preying on them and intentionally manipulating them so that you can throw them in jail. So you can be like, look at all the good we're doing, because you're too lazy, stupid, and inept to actually go after people who are really doing fucking crimes, because that would be way too fucking hard. And people wonder why I don't cry when a cop gets fucking shot in the face in New York City sitting in his fucking van. This shit right fucking here.
Yep. You feel better getting that all that off your chest, Andrew?
All right.
Only slightly.
Getting it all off your Schrodinger titties?
The compilation video, the compilation video on YouTube has 2 thumbs up and 123 thumbs down.
Yeah, well.
And the comments are turned off.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
Turn the comments off because that's how the cops respond. As soon as you start calling them out for being the cowardly, awful pieces of shit they are, they go, "Oh, I need to hide now." Look at the. You remember that anti-gun post where
every time a sheriff or a police department brags about confiscating firearms or cannabis, the comments on that absolutely are fantastic.
Did you guys see the comments on the one about the cop that was found drunk behind the wheel of his cruiser?
Oh, yeah. And then they're not going to charge him due to lack of evidence.
Yeah, not drunk. He wasn't
drunk.
He was passed out drunk.
Right. That's
with 4 times the legal limit, in uniform, in his police cruiser.
Yep.
And he's not
lack of evidence.
And he's not facing any charges.
Because they respected his HIPAA rights, and they couldn't be sure it was alcohol on his breath, so they took him to the hospital where the HIPAA rights kick in. And then, of course, they couldn't gather any evidence at that point.
But if it was you or I, you would have been tased, beaten, possibly shot, and thrown in a fucking cage.
You would have been literally physically thrown into a fucking jail cell, and you'd be lucky if you didn't crack your skull open when you fucking landed.
Yeah.
You'd be in a cage and a rain before the hangover started.
Well, you'd be aspirating on your own vomit in the fucking bottom of a prison cell cage. And they wouldn't even give it while they fucking laughed at you. Yeah. But they took this guy to the hospital, and then they made sure that it was a medical issue so that they couldn't gather any fucking evidence, because he's into the same cosplay that they're into.
Because he's a member of the same fucking gang, and the gang will always protect its own.
Yep.
So
always. Yeah, but that's the shit. Like, they're preying on the average working man who can't afford to defend himself, who's just trying to earn money any way he fucking can.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's willing to do all of the jobs that you are not willing to do yourself.
Or don't know how to do.
Or don't know how to do. And he learned, and he's doing it, and he didn't pay his blood money. And so their response is, "Oh, well, they're con men." At what point did any of these guys show me evidence that any of these guys even said they were a licensed contractor?
Yeah. And show me the evidence that any of them actually ever hurt anyone or damaged their property.
That's right.
One of the things, and the article said that they would ask these people to come and do work that did not require license.
Right.
And then during the course of that, they would try to get them to do work that did require license. Mm-hmm. So they literally like built the case and entrapped the person.
They entrapped them, and the thing is, and here's with his absolutely murderous fury as I feel about all of this shit. And
you're slightly upset.
Oh my god! Well, because I know dudes who do this. I used to work with guys who are day laborers.
Yeah, so do I.
Shit, I do too. I know guys who do shit, and you fucking motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But on top of that, it's look at the example, right? Installing a new toilet. You need to replace a toilet. You need to turn a valve off, undo 2 bolts, lift hard. Put the new one on, do 2 bolts, hook that back up, done. That's what it takes. And it requires a license to do those simple things.
Unless it's your own home or you're helping someone for free.
It's your own home or you're helping somebody for free. And magically now it's okay. And that's the shit where...
It's also Schrodinger's toilet.
They will argue.
So we've got Schrodinger's titties and Schrodinger's toilet.
Schrodinger's license.
Right. Yeah. But again, that's how the government works. It goes, oh, well, I mean, clearly anybody can just do this. And so we couldn't regulate this. Oh, but you need to pay us blood money. And then people want to pretend that this isn't a mafia racket. Well, this isn't all a mafioso racket. It fucking is. And every one of those fucking cops who's willing to enforce this shit is a fucking gangster. Well, they are the mafioso. And if they die in the course of being a fucking mafioso, they fucking deserve it.
Yeah. We covered this. We covered the licensing before here on the podcast.
Lots of times.
I think like literally like 2 years ago, I think we covered one about braiding hair here in California.
Yeah.
To braid hair in California requires a beautician's license, and in order to get a beautician's license, you have to go through like 1,600 hours of training.
Yeah.
And it's actually like beautician school is actually longer than it takes to become a police officer in the state of California.
Yep.
So to braid hair, you have to go to school longer than you have to go to school to become a cop.
Because remember, according to the Supreme Court, ignorance of the law is no excuse for a citizen, but ignorance of the law, if you're a cop, is okay.
It's a great excuse.
When your industry sues for the right to not hire high IQ individuals, there's a fucking problem.
I just brought that up the other day. Kevin and I were talking about something, and I just brought that up again.
Yep.
Like they went to the Supreme Court to defend their right to discriminate against higher IQ applicants.
And they also have the constitutional right to not protect people, or they have no constitutional obligation to protect people.
Right. No legal duty.
No legal duty. Yeah.
The low IQ thing in I'm in a gunsmiths and gun shop owners group, obviously because of Iron Harvest Tactical. If anyone needs any gun sales or
are there FUDs in there? That doesn't seem like a group that would have a lot of FUDs.
It doesn't have FUDs because we murder them.
Okay, cool.
We absolutely destroy any FUDs who show up.
Not
it's
literally.
Yeah, not literally.
Let's make sure.
It's anybody who's like a proponent of the 4473 or anything, we destroy them pretty horrendously for it. Or the people who are like, I got an M1 Garand. It's pronounced Garand, and okay, great. It's greatest battle rifle. Oh, okay, you need to go away, sir. But that's the attitude largely. But I just brought that up where we were laughing about the fact that apparently some RSO had to kick a cop off of their range for shooting a rifle into pistol targets and breaking them.
Jesus.
As he was told not to do. And we were talking about it and how dumb cops are and in general and how they don't understand firearms. They don't understand any of this shit, how they're all a bunch of fucking idiots in general. And we were talking about it and I shared that link and I got like a whole bunch of reactions from people going, oh my God, they actually They actually went to court to be able to hire idiots.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
They did. Because intelligent people don't become cops.
Yeah, because intelligent people use critical thinking instead of
we need bells to go off.
Orders.
We need yeah,
we're like flashes and critical thinking and lights. Yeah.
The secret word of the day.
Yes.
Oh my God!
It's a mystery tool that's going to help us later.
And then Andrew can go, I think I have another blue clue.
Yeah.
It's our Mousca-tool today.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, but that's it, is people who think critically do not become police officers, or do not, if they do,
they don't stay police officers.
Dumb enough to think that they help. They don't stay good, quote unquote, good police officers. Because you can be a good person or a good cop. You cannot be both.
Right.
Yes. And a good cop is not what you
a
think
good
it is.
person. Yeah.
All right. Let's jump onto the article Dyreka brought to the table.
Yeah, I only have a few minutes left.
Yeah. How the environmental lawyer who won a massive judgment against Chevron lost everything. Last August, during the second hottest year on record, when the fires in the Amazon rainforest were raging, the ice sheet in Greenland was melting, and Greta Thunberg was being greeted by adoring crowds across the U.S. Okay, this is a internet. What is it? It's an Intercept article. So
yeah, it's a biased article.
Yeah,
but still, the story is...
Yeah, an attorney who has been battling Chevron for more than a decade over environmental devastation in South America was put on house arrest. Few news outlets covered the detention of Stephen Donziger. Yeah, Donziger, who won a multi-billion-dollar judgment in Ecuador against Chevron over the massive contamination of the Lago Arrigo region and had been fighting on behalf of indigenous people and farmers there for more than 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So on August 6th, Donziger left a lower Manhattan courthouse unnoticed and boarded the number 1 train with an electronic monitoring device newly affixed to his ankle, save for the occasional meeting with his lawyer or other court-structured appointment. Has remained there ever since. Quote, I'm like a corporate political prisoner, Donziger told me as we went to the living room recently. Attorney who is 6'3", grain, and often to be mistaken for New York Mayor Bill de Blasio. God, that's unfortunate.
Boy, that poor guy. Jesus.
We're just able to watch these. Was surprisingly stoic and resigned about his predicament during my 2 visits to the apartment. Okay, blah blah blah. Okay.
Basically, I'll give the backstory real quick.
Against the biggest oil companies in the world, be flagging, quote, they are trying to totally destroy me. Donziger is not exaggerating. As he was arguing the case against Chevron in Ecuador back in 2009, the company expressly said its long-term strategy was to demonize them. And since then, Chevron has continued its all-out assault on Donziger and what's become one of the most bitter and drawn-out cases in the history of environmental law. Chevron has hired private investigators to track Donziger, created a publication to smear him, and put together a legal team of hundreds of lawyers from 60 firms who has successfully pursued an extraordinary campaign against him. As a result, Donziger, who has been disbarred and his bank accounts have been frozen, he now has a lien on his apartment, faces exorbitant fines, and has been prohibited from earning money. As of August, the court has seized his passport and put him on house arrest. Chevron, which is in the market capitalization of $228 billion, has the funds to continue targeting Donziger as long as it chooses.
Yep. So basically, what it boils down to is the only thing he did wrong was piss off very wealthy, very powerful people. And these people have the resources to keep, like we were talking about earlier, threading these fucking needles through the law. They have a huge team of lawyers that can find them any little thing they can twist into a big issue to take this guy's freedom and basically his entire life away from him because he dared to fucking sue them.
It's very reminiscent of Gary Webb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's reminiscent, even going back farther than that. It's reminiscent of a lot of the cattle wars, the range wars, back in the Old West, where you had people who had huge amounts of money versus people who didn't, and they leveraged government constantly to assault the people who tried to tell them no.
Right, and this story, what really struck me about this story, and why I wanted to talk about it, was that at every single step through this story, the entire like chronological progression of this story, every step happened because of government. Literally, the only reason this guy is stuck in his apartment right now is because government and their interference in the market, in people's lives, and the power they hold over people. That has perverted all of this from the very fucking beginning. Not just the American government either.
Ecuadorian Central and South American governments are noted for being so uncorruptible and level.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, even in Ecuador, Chevron wouldn't have been there. Yeah. Like polluting and poisoning if it weren't for government, like granting them these huge tracts of land that they didn't actually own.
Yeah. Despite Donziger's current pronouncement, the case against Chevron in Ecuador was a spectacular victory. The twisted legal saga began in 1993 when Donziger and another attorney filed a class action lawsuit in New York against Texaco on behalf of more than 30,000 farmers and indigenous people in the Amazon over massive contamination from the company's oil drilling there. Chevron, which bought Texaco in 2001, has insisted that Texaco cleaned up the area where it operated, and its former partner, the National Oil Company of Ecuador, were responsible for any remaining pollution. At Chevron's request, the legal proceedings over the, quote, Amazon Chernobyl were moved to Ecuador, where the courts were, quote, impartial and fair, as the oil company's attorneys wrote in the filing at the time. The move to Ecuador, where the legal system does not involve juries, may have also appealed because it spared Chevron a jury trial. In any case, an Ecuadorian court ruled that Chevron in 2011 and ordered the company to pay $18 billion in compensation, an amount that was later reduced to $9.5 billion.
Boy, that worked out well for them.
Yeah, after years of struggling with health and environmental consequences of oil extraction, the impoverished Amazon plaintiffs had won a historic judgment for one of the world's biggest corporations, or one of the biggest corporations in the world.
And that's why they're so pissed off and bitter. They thought they were rigging the system in their favor by having it done in Ecuador, and it fucking backfired on them.
Let's see. Donziger and his client never had a moment to savor their David over Goliath victory. Even though the ruling was subsequently upheld by the Ecuadorian Supreme Court, Chevron immediately made it clear it would not be paying the judgment. Instead, Chevron moved its assets out of the country, making it impossible for Ecuadorians to collect.
Yep.
So their response, what they tried to do was they tried to rig the system.
Chevron filed a racketeering, influence, and corrupt organizations, or RICO suit against Donziger in New York City. Although the suit originally sought roughly $60 billion in damages, the civil trials involving monetary claims to be more than 20 entitled a defendant to a jury. Chevron dropped the monetary claim 2 weeks before the trial.
Yeah, because they knew they would lose horrendously.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing is, so Chevron thought, well, we'll move it to Ecuador. We have all this money, all this power here. We'll be able to manipulate, and we could use the government. And then when the people were like, no, fuck you. You did poison us, you sons of bitches. You do owe us for it. Chevron's like, oh shit, we've made a grave miscalculation, got all pissed, thought, okay, well, we'll move to the United States again then, and we'll move all of our assets out.
Right, and then they embarked on a way to keep the attorney who started it from starting it again with them in the U.S. They're blocking him from access to the U.S. legal system by doing this. They got him
disbarred.
Yeah. So they're blocking his ability to come after them here in the States.
Right, because they know that if he ever makes it back to Ecuador, which is why the passport needed to be seized, if he makes it back to Ecuador, he still has the ability to be an attorney in Ecuador. He'll still do it again. He'll go after them again. He'll win again. And then they'll be completely kicked out of the country. And they can't have that. So what they have to do is try and isolate him and utilize the American government, which is all too happy to crawl into bed with every big business they can find.
Yep.
They need to leverage that. And they dropped the suit, the RICO suit, because they realized, oh shit, this ain't Ecuador, motherfuckers. I actually need proof. I actually need shit, and I don't have any of it.
Yeah, they used the U.S. government to confine a man to his home so that he couldn't cause them any more trouble.
Because when you're rich enough, government is nothing but your tool. It will never be a hindrance. It is your tool when you have enough money, like big oil does.
And that's what kills me about people who want bigger government to control the rich.
All right.
You know, people who want the government to take the rich down.
Oh, they're
like, are you fucking stupid? You want to increase the tool of the rich?
All right.
To control them?
According to Open Secrets, opensecrets.org, since 1990, Chevron has spent $31 million on lobbying.
Surprise, surprise. You think the government is going to... Like, lobbying is where congressmen go after they leave Congress. They go to the fucking lobbying firms. They're looking out for their long-term personal career goals.
Let's see.
By looking out for the companies who fucking spend big amounts on lobbying.
Yeah. To date, they've also spent, let's see, it's about 3-1. They spent 3 times as much on Republicans as they have Democrats, but they are spending on Democrats.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because as long as you as long as you hand enough money to the right people, you can get shit done. And it's anyone who wants to pretend that the United States government is not the bitch of big enough business is an idiot.
Yep.
They are. They absolutely are. If you have enough money, you can buy congressmen. You can buy the fucking president.
Yeah, but let's not forget that business doesn't get that big without government help.
Right.
Oh, absolutely not.
Right. Yep. You need to get in bed with them from the beginning.
Yep.
And they will protect you. And then, because you have a ready-made army at that point, you have the police, you have all of these idiot order followers who are willing to put people in cages who defy you. So you start out that way, and then you get big enough that you can buy the people who even make the policies, influence them, pay them, and you can manipulate them. And it's just one step after another. And if you
getting into business to begin with is so fucking expensive because government makes it expensive. It makes it inaccessible for competitors to rise up and challenge these people for business. So these companies get that big and that fucking rich because of government barriers to fucking entry for anybody who doesn't already have a shitload of fucking money.
Which is exactly why the internet is a thing that so many brick and mortar businesses are campaigning against, why they're trying to convince government to go after and regulate the internet, is because look at what happened to Target, Shopko. Look at what happened to Sears. Look at what happened to
Kmart,
Blockbuster,
Kmart, Sears, Macy's. They're all out of business. Toys R Us,
Shopko,
out of business.
Yeah, Blockbuster, out of fucking business.
They're all out of business now because internet does it better and cheaper. And so in response, the government is going after the internet businesses and wants to regulate the internet. That is what's happening. And it's not happening because, having it unregulated is a bad idea. It's because the businesses that
it's not for your safety
actually paying the salary.
Big business is the reason. Big business is the reason that Alaskans aren't using natural gas that was mined in Alaska.
Yeah.
Right, because they can't.
Because they can't legally because of some shipping law. That was so
exactly. So what you have is big business is in charge of your life. At the end of the day, they get to make those decisions. They're the ones who are doing it. And these idiot socialists and these idiot big government, pro-government fucking leftists want to be like, so the solution, because government is clearly controlled by big business, our solution is what we need is
more
just
government.
More government.
Yeah. To regulate the big businesses.
That's
not how this works.
They're already in bed with.
That's not how any of this fucking works.
Yeah.
Government is the reason big businesses develop and get away with this bullshit.
We need to get wolves. Yeah. We need to get wolves in the office to stop the foxes from eating the chickens.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's
because government is force. Okay, we've talked about that before. Government is force. Business is not force. So if businesses want to force their customers into these fucking like slaughterhouse funnels right to their product, they need government force to achieve that. And that is all government is fucking force. They are making you their customer, whether you fucking like it or not, through government. If it weren't there, you'd have more choices. You could avoid companies with shitty ethics.
And if you don't want to be their customer, they'll throw you in a fucking cage or shoot you in the face.
Yeah, or if you threaten their customer base like this guy.
Look at how many states have car insurance laws. I mean, Wisconsin was one of the last, and now we have it. And it's down to Alabama as the only state left that doesn't have a law that requires that you have car insurance. Well, who do you think lobbied for a law?
Even the ACA. Who fucking wrote the ACA?
Yeah.
You know? Insurance companies fucking wrote the ACA.
ACA is the
Affordable Care Act. Obamacare. Yeah. So, who fucking wrote that? Insurance company.
Literally
health insurance company.
All right, we got one more. Just a quick one, and then we'll let Dyreka go.
Yeah.
Okay. Michigan medical marijuana seller gets prison. Federal law has not changed, the judge said. Former owner of a medical marijuana dispensaries in several Michigan cities was sentenced on Tuesday to nearly 16 years in federal prison.
My God.
Danny Trevino, 47, of Lansing, who had Hydro World dispensaries in Grand Rapids, Flint, Jackson, Lansing, and elsewhere, has avoided state criminal and civil penalties over the years, but was convicted of multiple federal charges. Quote, states are changing marijuana laws across the country. Certainly that's true, but federal law has not changed. U.S. District Judge Paul Maloney said. Trevino sought the statutory minimum sentence of 5 years in prison. Maloney instead sentenced Trevino to 15 years, 8 months in prison at the low end of the advisory sentencing guidelines, which range from 188 to 235 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to skip over that.
For selling a plant.
Hold on. Trevino had operated dispensaries since 2010, was convicted in August jury trial of 10 felony charges, including conspiracy to manufacture, distribute, and possess marijuana, and maintaining a drug-involved premises. He was not allowed to use the state's medical marijuana law as a defense to the federal charges. Nonetheless, the government said he acted outside the boundaries of the state medical marijuana laws. District Attorney Nicholas Bostick called that a fallacy. He said Trevino was successful in challenging state complaints after he had been arrested and subjected to several search warrants. He was arrested in April 2014 in Grand Rapids for delivery or manufacture of marijuana and maintaining a drug house, but charges were dropped a month later. He fought forfeiture of funds seized by police and was ultimately returned by 2 state courts. Trevino businesses were raided 16 times. 16 times between 2010 and 2016, the government said.
Jesus.
He's provided the state with store records and tax records that show the business brought in nearly $3 million. But yeah, he got hit up on federal charges. Like, he got raided 16 times between 2010 and 2016
by federal fucking
by the state.
That was the state?
By state and local agents.
Jesus.
16 times he beat it all 16 times. I guarantee you somebody called the feds and was like, "Hey, come get this guy." And that's why he got hooked on federal charges.
And how many marijuana dispensaries are there in the US now?
A
Why
lot.
this guy? Why this guy? Somebody, a competitor, I bet, pharmaceutical most likely, wanted this guy out of fucking business. I bet if you peel enough layers off of this dog turd, you will find a pharma company at the fucking center of it.
Yep.
Oh, without a doubt. Because no one else has that interest.
Yep.
It's just them.
No one else would have that kind of fucking boner for this guy.
Yeah, Assistant U.S. Attorney Daniel McGraw said Trevino knew he acted illegally under federal law. He called Trevino, quote, defiant, unrepentant, and undeterred from committing the current federal crimes.
Fuck your federal laws.
In fucking Arizona alone, okay, because there's a big push to legalize marijuana in Arizona. The maker of fentanyl, opiate painkiller, in one state, in Arizona, has donated $500,000 to anti-marijuana legislation in Arizona alone in the past 12 months.
Yep. Not at all surprising. No. All you have to find for these laws that oppress people, these laws that fucking take your freedoms away, all you have to do is ask that age-old question, que bene, who fucking benefits from keeping this illegal? Who is making money off of this being illegal? And that is exactly who is pushing these laws.
One of the biggest opponents of legalized marijuana is the alcohol industry.
Yeah. Only behind
Big Pharma.
It's like only behind Big Pharma, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Big Pharma and alcohol, yeah.
Yeah. Things that are killing people. Things that are literally killing people every fucking day. All day, every day, their products fucking kill people. Marijuana doesn't kill people. There's literally no way to overdose on it.
What is it you would need? What is it like you'd have to smoke like 50 joints in an hour or in a row or something like that?
Right. And it's because THC is also absorbed into the body in a parabolic arch, which means that there's a point where you can get as high as you can possibly get, and if you continue to intake marijuana, the THC receptors actually start shutting off and ignoring it.
Yeah.
And just pissing it out the body. And it actually goes down. The more you intake, once you hit that peak, the more you intake, the less your body absorbs. You can actually smoke yourself sober on THC.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I've done that once or twice.
That's why every good stoner has like 1 month a year where they reset their system and don't smoke. Just say.
See, I don't even partake
I almost never do
THC,
anymore because it's really effective for my pain if I only use it when I absolutely need to. I'll go weeks without needing it for my pain. So yeah, it provides the best pain relief if I don't use it very often.
See, and I'm always the odd guy out in anarchist circles because I don't use it at all. Like, not one little bit. So, like, but it doesn't mean I don't understand its benefits or why it's important or anything else.
There's no THC infused whiskeys?
I'm sure there are.
If there are, they're not available in Wisconsin, and I'm not going to bother to drive around to find them because I'm not a fan of being high. Like I prefer to be drunk. Sorry, I realize that offends a lot of people. I don't fucking care. That's and there are plenty of people who really prefer to be high. I don't. Yeah. So
because I can still focus and function and do the things I need to do, but with less pain.
Oh, see, I can focus and function when I'm drunk. I can't when I'm high.
See, I can't when I've been drinking.
So, like, it's completely different for me. But whatever, my physiology is different. The way my brain works is different. And it's probably because I'm, according to Lindsay, probably on the spectrum. But either way, it for me, like and that's why I laugh too about all these people who are like, oh, all you anarchists, you only want marijuana legalization and decriminalization because you want to get high. No, I actually have literally zero desire to do so. It's none.
And it's not even about getting high for me. It's about my pain.
Well, honestly. And it's about
if your pain. If I had something this safe and effective for my pain that didn't give me any kind of buzz at all, that would be what I would be fucking using.
Right. But I mean, the difference is, the reason that the alcohol lobby, the reason that the tobacco lobby, the reason that Big Pharma don't want marijuana legalization
is because it threatens their market shares.
They care about you using their products. That's why.
They're
I don't
deadly,
care about
horrible products that fucking kill people all day, every day.
I don't care about using the marijuana industry's products, but I want it decriminalized because I don't think government has a right to tell you what you can and can't put in your body. And that's the be-all end-all for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They want to tell you what you can and can't use because they care about the use of their products.
Because previously, they controlled everything that was effective for pain relief, for the things that you want to use it for. They had control of all of it. They produced it. Only a couple of companies were allowed to, and they made billions. They made hundreds of billions of fucking dollars.
All I'm saying is if you want to make America great again, legalize or decriminalize cannabis, and you have a American, U.S. grown, U.S. owned, U.S. produced product.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Budweiser can't say that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they're foreign owned.
And the problem with cannabis
Budweiser's
is it's not that hard to grow. People can grow their own fucking medicine with cannabis. There's no way to, without government, there's no way to fucking criminalize manufacture.
Did we just conclude that pot is more American than Budweiser?
It is significantly.
Yeah.
It
depends on where you get it from, I guess.
Isn't marijuana native to South America? Is that an African thing or is it a South American thing?
I think it's South American.
I think it's South American.
It's everywhere actually.
Yeah.
Hemp is one of those things that's been growing on almost every continent of the planet.
Right? But North America had hemp from its earliest days. Like there are founding fathers who made their fortune.
Yeah. But like Britain had hemp before the American colonies were even a thing. That's what all their rigging on their ships was made from.
Yeah, so but in terms of the United States and things being American, hemp is a thing
that you buy in America came from fucking America.
Yeah,
right.
It helped build this country. It helped.
Yeah.
Hemp was a major thing. There are founding fathers who made their fortunes with.
And if you want to revitalize the American economy, if you want to revolutionize American energy, if you want to fucking get rid of these building materials, if you want to revolutionize the housing industry, the textile industry, all of these things. Hemp can fucking do it all, even paper, and it can do it all at a way lower fucking economic footprint, a way lower environmental footprint.
Well, right, and think about all of our dependence, and everybody ignores our dependence on foreign lumber. The United States has a serious dependency on foreign lumber.
Yeah, most of it comes from Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have hemp as a major crop.
Uh-huh.
You no longer have that issue of foreign lumber. You no longer have the issue of worrying about foreign oil because you can make biodiesel and you can make ultimately probably refined gasoline. I don't know if you can.
They're making hardwood flooring now that is 10 times as strong and more resilient than fucking oak. And they're making it from hemp at way less cost.
Yeah. And you can just, and it grows, 10 times faster than a tree. So you can produce enormous amounts of it very, very quickly. You can produce so many things. And now they've developed a way to even make hemp denim actually feel like regular denim.
Yeah.
So at this point, there's no reason not to embrace the idea of full legalization, full decriminalization, more importantly than legalization.
Right. And whatever made them think they had a right to fucking cut us off from part of nature? What made
it was
them
purely,
think
it was the ban on marijuana was purely a racist thing. It was because
to raid Mexican households.
The spelling. The spelling of marijuana uses a J instead of an H because they thought to make it sound more Latino.
Yep, to scare people.
They intentionally wanted. Yeah,
and that was back in the early 1900s.
Yeah, discourage people from using it because, those dangerous Mexicans.
Yeah, they used to call it cannabis until they used it as the vehicle to demonize Mexicans in the U.S., at which point they started using the Spanish spelling and the Spanish word marijuana with a J.
Yep. And that's what it was all about. It was about demonizing it because, and really the reason that pot is demonized is not even entirely because of that. The reason that pot is demonized is because hemp had to be demonized to protect the lumber industry.
And the textile industry had a lot to do with it too.
It was about king cotton and it was about pine. And that's what it was about. And it wasn't about the fact that, if it has high THC, it can get you high if you smoke it. It was about the fact that we need to make sure that slow growing wood stays expensive, and we need to make sure that king cotton stays the king, and that's what we need to do. And and again, to circle around what we've been talking about, big business manipulated government, influenced government to deny you freedoms to secure its own interests. And the answer that these leftists have is let's throw in more government to the mix. That'll fix it.
Fucking retarded. Yeah. That's like saying this shark has too many fucking teeth. What it needs is more fucking teeth.
Yeah. It's
like saying the shark's teeth are too sharp. Yep. What it needs is more teeth. Fucking really?
Yeah. There are too many sharks, so what we really need, I'm a seal. There are too many great whites, so what I really need is a bunch of orcas.
Yeah.
What?
That'll help solve the problem.
Yeah, that'll solve the problem.
Oh. Yeah. All right, well, I gotta go.
Jaws 2020.
Yeah.
So, on that note,
Schrodinger's titties, yo.
Schrodinger's titties. This has been episode 82.
Also buy my book.
Buy Dyreka's book that's linked in the description. Check out Andrew's YouTube page, Inked Anarchist. And then, peace, love, anarchy.
Peace.